There are two things that the anime community loves more than anything else in this world: finding out who is best girl and Studio Ghibli films. However, if we were to combine these two things together, you'd most likely be frowned upon the anime community for even sullying the sacred name of Studio Ghibli. What the hell is wrong with you? In honor of 35 years since the studio's founding and Netflix acquiring their streaming rights to all their films, I thought I'd take this opportunity to celebrate this great accomplishment. I could talk about the many different facets of what they've done, but I believe there is one aspect of their filmography that has helped them maintain relevancy in their 35-year history, and that is their female lead characters. That's not to say that anime in general doesn't have its fair share of strong, independent female characters too, but what makes Ghibli so exceptional is their ability to create not only likable, varied, and well-written characters with a lot of agency in their stories, but also inspiring role models for fans of all ages. The fact that they've been doing all of this since their very inception is incredibly remarkable. As the great Hayao Miyazaki once said, "Many of my movies have strong female leads, brave, self-sufficient girls that don't think twice about fighting for what they believe with all of their heart. They'll need a friend or supporter, but never a savior. Any woman is just as capable of being a hero as any man." And what better way to follow up on these strong feminist teachings than by objectifying these girls by ranking them in a top 10 list. Good everyone, I'm IrishAnimeFan, and today I'll be counting down the top 10 Studio Ghibli heroines. Now you may be asking, what kind of authority do I have making a list like this? Well, unlike some people, I've actually seen all their films. Yes, even before they were on Netflix. So I think I have a good idea of what I'm talking about. Just to be clear, I'm only focusing exclusively on their filmography, so I won't be including any music videos, the Ronja TV anime, or the Ni no Kuni video game series. I also won't be including the Castle of Cagliostro, Mary and the Witch's Flower, or the Red Turtle because they weren't exactly made by them. But between you and me, if I had complete free reign over this video, you know I'd do anything for that red turtle. And with all that out of the way, here are the best girls of Studio Ghibli. Oh god, did I really just make that my title? Number 10. Sophie Hatter from Howl's Moving Castle. The first, and definitely not the last, character from a Hayao Miyazaki film to appear on this list. I know it's kind of controversial to put Howl's Moving Castle this low on the list, but don't be dissuaded by its placement here because I still think it's a really good film regardless. Sophie is an interesting case because we get to see her in two forms. In the beginning, we see her as a young woman who makes hats for a living. Oh, I get it now. She keeps to herself a lot of the time and is all around very insecure with not much purpose in her life. That is, until she meets the Witch of the Waste, and is cursed to live out the rest of her life as an old woman. This version of Sophie couldn't be any more different from her counterpart, as she takes on the role as the no-nonsense, wisecracking old granny who acts as sort of a straight woman to the antics of Hal and his misfit friends. But all of that comes with a great deal of confidence and wisdom, so when she reverts back into her younger self near the end of the film, she imparts all that experience with her going forward. However, her younger self is kind of the reason why she's ended up so low on this list. I mean, I don't mind this side to her personally, but compared to her older self, who is much more entertaining to watch, her younger self comes across as a bit dull in my eyes, and having to constantly switch back and forth between these two versions after the halfway point is rather jarring. Nonetheless, I still think she's a really good protagonist, and in turn, a great character to start off this list. Number 9. Kagia from The Tale of Princess Kagia, the only character from a film directed by the late great Isao Takahata to appear on this list. Don't get me wrong, I love his films, but it's apparent that despite being the longtime collaborative partner of Hayao Miyazaki, they don't really share the same viewpoint in terms of filmmaking. However, Takahata does display his own unique characteristics throughout his films. A theme he liked in particular is one's individuality put up against what is expected of you in society. A theme that is greatly explored in his final film and with its titular Princess Kagia. Having been found inside a bamboo tree, the cutter who found her believes her to be a princess sent from heaven, with riches to boot. This convinces him to bring her to the capital to truly become a princess and to be happy. His well-intentioned yet harmful form of affection then begins to turn what was once a happy young girl growing up in the countryside into someone going through a deep state of depression. However, despite the societal expectations, she still manages to act defiantly in the eyes of the establishment, not afraid and playing with the noblemen who want to marry her and wasting their time obtaining these rare treasures in which they compare to. But apart from these glimpses of fun seen in this period, this is still quite a tragic tale of events, which is why I hesitate to put it any higher on this list. But this element of tragedy is what makes her character so compelling. You really do feel her pain and longing to return to the countryside, but once she finally attains that happiness again, it's already too late, and that is absolutely heartbreaking. Despite all of that, she still has enough spirit to warrant a place on this list. Number 8. Haru Yoshioka from The Cat Returns. It's a shame that this film doesn't get as much attention as other Ghibli films because I absolutely adore it. While it may not be as polished as those other films, including the one that preceded it, but more on that in a little bit, it's still a fun, charming little adventure flick that always leaves a big, feel-good impression every time I watch it. And to prove that, here's footage of me actually watching the film with my cat. You can tell she loves it. What aids the film in that regard, for the most part, boils down to its incredibly likable heroine, Haru. What I love about this girl is that even though she starts out as having the worst luck, always being late, clumsy, and always lacking in self-confidence, that doesn't stop her from having a kind heart. Her saving those adorable cats from certain death is worthy enough to put her on the list. But what makes her really shine is the amount of development she gets throughout her journey, with a little help from the Baron, of course. By the end of the film, she is no longer this meek person we saw in the first act, and she is able to stand up for herself. Her growth and acts of self-improvement throughout the film are completely evident. It just goes to show that sometimes the most simple methods are the most effective. Number 7. Theo Piccolo from Porco Rosso. Porco Rosso is kind of an unusual film. Well, at least by Miyazaki's standards. Arguably his most mature film in terms of its content, featuring a male chauvinistic pig as his protagonist. However, Miyazaki was still able to weave in a feminist message as a great contrast. There will be some who will prefer the sophistication of Gina, but my money will always be on the young Theo. Her character is just so instantly likable from the moment she appears on screen. This lively but talented mechanic exudes both confidence and ambition in her craft as she, along with an all-woman crew, rebuild Porco's plane from the ground up. Speaking of which, the relationship between her and our titular pig protagonist is also really great. From the banter and the teasing that Porco gives her for being a female engineer, to actually having a mutual respect for her skills to rebuild his plane. It's a sweet little dynamic they have going on. Also, seeing her putting the brazen sea pilots in their place, which results in them regaining their honor out of respect for her, is also a lot of fun to watch. Theo is just an absolute joy to watch, and her existence is proof that women can do a man's job just as well, if not even better, than you would expect. But the main reason she's on the list is for this.
There's not enough space in there, even with your tiny butt. Now take out a gun.
Thank you! And you know, my butt is bigger than it looks.
We didn't necessarily need to know that, but thanks anyway? Okay, now I'm really going to jail. Number 6. Shizuku Tsukishima from Whisper of the Heart. Whisper of the Heart is such a mood. The way this down-to-earth, coming-of-age tale is able to capture what it's like to be a young creative type just rings so true. Well, at least for me anyway. Shizuku is one such creative type. She really does embody a romantic view of the world. A bookworm who obsesses over fairy tales, has an adventurous streak in her nature, and is all around a very sensitive person who takes what she does very seriously. I also love the fact that she's always looking out for her best friend Yuko, and trying to pair her up with the boy she likes. Even when it's revealed the boy actually had a crush on Shizuku, she still declines his offer just so she doesn't hurt Yuko's feelings. Now that's the good kind of friendship I love to see. Sisters before misters, am I right? Well, it's not quite as simple, as it was her admiration for Seiji Amazawa that inspired her to pursue writing as a path she must take. Despite showing great promise in her ability, she's still very critical of her work and of herself, thinking she's not good enough. As someone who also considers himself an artist, oh god, that sounds so pretentious, I definitely feel that all the time. Despite this being the only film directed by Yoshifumi Kondo, may he rest in peace, what he did grace us with was nothing short of spectacular. Number 5. Nausicaa, from Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. Yeah, I know this was technically made before Ghibli's founding, but come on, the enhanced use of technology, the environmentalist themes, the anti-war sentiment, let's face it, Nausicaa is a Studio Ghibli film through and through. And of course, it also boasts a strong female lead in the form of our titular character Nausicaa. Even if she is a princess, she proves to be more than capable on her own. She's incredibly resourceful and extremely knowledgeable of her surroundings, almost to the point that she's one with nature. She's curious about the environment, but her pacifist nature also gifts her with incredible kindness and patience. Those attributes translate not just with the animals, but also with her people, as she is constantly seen risking her own life just for their safety. That image of her protecting her home against a herd of raging Ohm charging towards her is just so badass. Plus, she has a fox squirrel named Theo. How can you not love her? The only issues I have with her character is that maybe she's a bit too perfect. I know that sounds like a really strange comment about one of my favorite characters, but hear me out. I mean, she's always quick on her feet and knows the best course of action to take in any given situation. And I'd be remiss not to mention that while her pacifism is completely justified, and I actually do agree on a lot of what she says, I can see it being a smidge overbearing for some. But honestly, these are just minor gripes for what is otherwise one of Ghibli's best protagonists. Not bad for your first outing. Number 4. Kiki, from Kikis Delivery Service. Kikis Delivery Service was the first Ghibli film I'd ever watched, so naturally I have a connection towards it. It is a very comfy film to sit down and watch, and it always gives me the warmest feelings afterwards. And Kiki as a character largely contributes towards that feeling. Despite her being a witch in training, her story is still a relatable one. The universal themes of moving away from home, trying to find yourself, and to survive in an unfamiliar city always elicits a resonant response for its viewer. The experiences she has with the various people in the city is also pertinent in shaping her character. Some of them are very lovely and warm individuals, while others are very callous and dismissive. But that's just what life is sometimes. Her transition into her depressive state near the end of the second act is sure to strike an emotional chord for those who have gone through the same thing before, and to see her break free from that rut is, quite honestly, truly inspiring. On top of all that, she's a spirited young girl who's considerate, caring, and always hard-working. This is one delivery service that I, and many others, are sure to rely on in the future. Number 3. San, from Princess Mononoke. Oh, wait, San at number 3? Really? Oh my god, I just got it. I wasn't intending for that to happen, but oh my god, what? Oh no. Oh no. Princess Mononoke is quite possibly my favorite Studio Ghibli film. I think. I don't know, ask me about it a different day and you'll get a different answer, but as of right now, it's Princess Mononoke. One thing I love about this film is just how multifaceted it all is. Sure, it has Miyazaki's fingerprints all over its environmentalist themes, but unlike something like Nausicaa, Mononoke is shrouded in deep moral complexity. There is no straightforward black and white good versus evil framework present in the film. Fans have made that case for Lady Eboshi, and I also think the same could be made for San. Despite being raised by wolves to become the Wolf Princess and professes her hatred of all humans for what they've done to the forest, she is, in fact, still a human herself. And we do see that shred of humanity seeping through the cracks, especially seen with her interactions with Ashitaka. Despite initially wanting to kill him, once she is saved by him and bonds over achieving similar goals, there is still some form of repayment seen with her nurturing him back to health. It's this kind of wrestling of ideals that fascinates me about her character. Apart from that, San is incredibly protective of what she deeply cares about, and is an agile fighter who kicks major ass. And I think that's pretty awesome. Number 2. Anna Sasaki, from When Marnie Was There. I've talked a lot about the universal appeal that all these characters inhabit, but I've yet to touch upon the personal appeal. When Marnie Was There is one such film that I personally resonate with. Out of all of their films, this was the only one that has actually made me full-on cry. One of the reasons why I have this strong emotional connection towards it is because of the character of Anna. While most of these characters I've mentioned have a degree of relatability, Anna is the character I personally relate to the most. It's actually kind of scary how much of myself I see in her. She's a shy, introverted girl who likes to sketch in her free time. She has trouble approaching and communicating with other people, engages in a lot of self-loathing. Hell, I even suffered with asthma when I was younger. That's the part I find extremely scary and that goes way beyond coincidence. I'm always going to gravitate more towards characters that are similar to me, as biased as that may sound. But what pushes her over the edge is using her relationship with the mysterious Marnie to help her better understand what was going on in her life. This intimate journey of self-discovery that she goes on is just incredibly touching, and it deeply affected me. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but for those of you who know what I'm referring to, knows how powerful that moment is. It's something I hold very deep and close to my heart. But that begs the question, if you speak so highly of Anna, then why isn't she the best girl? Well, that's because... And my number one pick for the best girl of Studio Ghibli is... Chihiro Ogino from Spirited Away. Yeah, I know it's cliche to talk about how amazing this film is, but come on, it's Spirited Away! This film is just a wonderful mix of unrivaled imagination with tight and heartwarming storytelling. It also has one of the most solid and well-defined character arcs to be ever told in this medium of anime, in the form of Chihiro. She starts off as a miserable child who isn't keen on moving to a new town. She's bratty, whines a lot, and is easily submissive, and being thrusted into this strange, scary new world filled with spirits doesn't help matters much. It was only thanks to Haku that she was able to survive it all in the beginning. However, as the film progresses and she gets more accustomed to living her life as a bathhouse servant, we do start to see a change in her character. She slowly but surely gains more courage throughout the film. She uses clever strategies to get her out of perilous predicaments, and eventually she's able to take control over certain situations, which leads her towards a newfound sense of independence. Despite all of the shortcomings that are thrown her way, she never lost sight of her goals. Not only for her to escape from this world, but also to get her family back. It would have been so easy to write her off as some kind of selfish brat in that regard, but I'm glad Miyazaki gave her the time and respect for her to not go down that predictable path. Spirited Away is just as much a story about looking out for those who are closest to you as it is about growing up through a tumultuous time in your life. And Chihiro embodies all of these themes and then some throughout the duration of the film. And that is why Chihiro is the best girl of Studio Ghibli. Despite it coming off this way, I don't want to give the impression that one character is better than another just because they're higher up on the list. This was actually a really tough list to put together because, as I've said time and time again, all the characters that were mentioned in this video, including some of the honorable mentions on your screen right now, are great in their own individual ways. It just goes to show that even after 35 years in the business, Studio Ghibli still manages to stay fresh throughout all these years. Anyway, that does it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit the like button if you did. Hit subscribe to be notified whenever I upload a new video. And follow me on Twitter at IrishAnimeFans for updates on videos and other miscellaneous things I happen to tweet. Link in the description below. I've been IrishAnimeFan, and until next time, Slán.